Hey everybody, welcome back to another fun and exciting intermediate math class. Today we are going to be continuing in chapter number 1. We'll be on lesson number 5 today. That's on page number 21 in your book, page 21. What we'll be doing today is actually talking about how to multiply or divide by powers of 10. Now you might say, that's easy, I just add a 0. Or I just add 2 zeros, or I just take away a 0. You're close, but you're kind of missing something. You're missing kind of the trick to all of it. And you might say, well, multiplying by 10 is easy. I just use my calculator. No, you can't use your calculator. Don't do that, okay? There's even an easier way to do it than a calculator. And you're like, wow, that must be really easy. It is. All right, so stay tuned, watch this video, and you will see how to do it even easier than a calculator. You're going to like this. All right, so go ahead and make sure your book is open to page number 21, and we'll be on lesson number 5 there. So when we're dividing or multiplying by powers of 10, go ahead and look down here, and I've got some things written down. So when multiplying by 10, or a multiple of 10. You say, what is a multiple of 10? It's like 10 times 10 or 10 times 10 times 10. We were using exponents, right? So it's like 10 to the third, 10 to the sixth, 10 to the 20th, whatever it is. It's different multiples of 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. In other words, 1,000, 1 million, things like that. So how are we going to do this? How easy is this? How can this even be easier than a calculator? Well, look at this step right here. There's only one step to doing this. It's quite easy when you know this step. When multiplying by a multiple of 10, simply move the decimal point. So it's not adding a 0, right? Be careful of that. We're just going to move it to the right as many times as there are zeros in the multiple of 10. All right, what does that mean? Well, let's look down here at this question right here, right? 63 times 10. So we have a multiple of 10. 10 is a multiple of itself, right? 1 times 10 is 10. So this is considered a multiple of 10. 10 is a multiple of 10. Now, how many zeros? Notice what it says. As many zeros as there are in the multiple of 10. So in other words, how many zeros are there in 10? Okay, it's not a hard question. 1. There's 1 0 in the number 10. So what we're going to do is we are going to move the decimal point. Don't just say, I'm just going to add a 0. In this case, it works, right? So if we move the decimal point, so if we have 63, and if we move our decimal point one place to the right, all we have to do is add a 0. So you get 63 and then add a 0 or move the decimal point, right? So the answer would be 630. Now let me kind of prove that to you. We'll go over here. So 63 times 10, and we have 0, 0, and then 0, and then 3, and then 6. 630, okay? So you don't have to do that every time. This is a waste of your time. Pushing buttons on a calculator is a waste of your time. Here's the easy way to do it. Here's the hack, right? All you have to do is move your decimal point one place and then add a 0, and then we have 630. Now be careful that you do not, there is a big difference between adding zeros and moving the decimal. We are not just adding zeros, okay? So watch this one. So basically I have the same exact numbers, right? Here's 63 times 10. Here's 0.63 times 10. Almost the exact same problem, but now I have a decimal point here. It's 0.63. So now what do? So do we just add a 0? So it's 0.630. Is that how we do it? That is not how we do it. We are not adding zeros, okay? We are moving the decimal. Remember, when we multiply, we move the decimal to the right. So we would have 0.63. We have 1 0. So we need to move the decimal point one place. So we would get 6.3. We're not adding a 0. We're moving the decimal. Very important to understand the difference right there. Let's do another one. This one has a multiple of 10, right? It's 10 cubed. 10 to the third power is 10 cubed. What does that mean? It means 10 times 10 times 10. What is 10 times 10 times 10? Well, one way that you could do it, right, is just by multiplying by multiples of 10. So you move the decimal one place for this 10 and one place for this 10. So you're going to have 1,000. That's one way that you could do it, okay? And maybe you were like, what did he just do right there? Okay, another way that you could do it is just multiply them. So 10 times 10. And that gives you what? Well, that gives you 100 times 10. What does that give you? You know, zeros, carry it all out, and that's going to give you your 1,000. There's another way to do it, and to me it's the simplest way. Again, this is like one of those life hacks right here. This is simpler than using a calculator. Again, we just write the 1, and then we write it with 3 zeros because this is times itself 3 times. So we just write 1 and then 0, 0, 0. There's our 3 zeros. That's a really easy way to do multiples of 10 because now I just have 3 zeros and there's my 1,000. However you want to do that, it's fine. I don't mind you taking shortcuts like that as long as the shortcuts work. There's no need to use a calculator there. There's no reason to multiply it all out. If you want to move your decimal, that's fine. Or if you just want to say, okay, whatever that is, that's how many zeros I put after my 1, that's fine too. That only works with multiples of 10. Don't try that with a 100 there. Don't try that with any other number there. That's only going to work with multiples of 10. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and say, okay, so this is 0.5184 times 1,000, not times 10 to the third. Because 10 cubed, it's a little bit harder to see these 3 zeros. And maybe you can see them right there and you can do it without writing out like 1,000. But I like to write it out. That's going to help you see these zeros right there. Why are those zeros important to you? Those zeros are important to you because that's how many times we're going to move our decimal, right? That's what it says in our step up here. We're going to move it to the right as many times as there are zeros. So go back over here. How many zeros do we have? We have 3 zeros. So we're going to take this 1, 2, 3 times. So we'll have 0.5184, and we're going to move our decimal right there. So 518.4 would be our answer. Okay? All right. So now, sometimes you have to, and we did this on the first one, but sometimes you have to do what's called annexing zeros. What does it mean to annex a 0? It means that you just add zeros. So if you see this word annexing a 0, that just means that you're adding zeros to it. Okay, that's what the word annex means, to add to. So we're going to add zeros to the number. Sometimes you have to do that. Let's take this one here, for example. We're going to have to add zeros to this one. So what are we doing? We're multiplying, so we're going to be moving our decimal to the right. How many times? Well, how many zeros do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. So we're going to take our 0.76 and we're going to move it to the right 4 times. Now watch this. 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't have anything there. Well, you would write zeros in there. And so your number would be 7,600 would be your answer on that one. All right, the next section here is when we are dividing, not multiplying now we're dividing by multiples of 10, right? What do? We do the same exact thing, except for we're now moving it to the left. When you divide, move to the left. When you multiply, move to the right, okay? How much? as many times as there are zeros in the multiple of 10. Same principle, same way of doing it. We're just moving to the left instead of the right. So here's our problem. 418 divided by 10. 418 divided by 10. So let's write our 418. Now, here's the question. Where is my decimal point? I don't see a decimal point. Well, decimal points obviously are always to the right of the number, okay? And so we're going to move it to the left this way one time. Why one time? Because I only have one zero. So now my answer is going to be 41.8. Okay, that easy. Don't need a calculator. You don't even need to figure it out. It's just moving a decimal. Very simple process. Let's do another one. All right, so here we go. Now we have 0.16 or 0.16 divided by 10 to the third. Do you remember the little trick that I told you about when it's cubed or when it's to the fifth or when it's to the 10th, whatever it is? Whatever this exponent is, that's how many times you're going to move your decimal. Okay, and we're moving to the left right here because it's division. So I'm going to take my decimal 1, 2, 3 times. I need to fill this in with zeros. So my answer would be 0.00016. And that would be the answer. Now, why are those zeros important? Because any zeros in between a number and the decimal are important zeros. Okay, we can't get rid of those. Any zeros that are over here, right, we could get rid of those. That are on the left side of the decimal. Those zeros are not important. And any zeros over here, we could also get rid of those zeros. But these ones here in the middle of the number and the decimal are very, very important to us. All right, so really another, I hate to use the word easy, right? Because math isn't easy. But one of the easier lessons that you'll have this year, you're just moving the decimal, okay? Right if we're multiplying, left if we are dividing. And that's all there is to it. You do have to add some zeros sometimes, but remember the rules. Zeros in the middle are important. Zeros to the left or zeros to the right, you can get rid of those, okay? That's all I have for you. Hope you learned something. We'll see you later. Have a good one. Bye-bye.